What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Play Callers Sports Talk Show. So, I am one half of the dynamic duo, which might sound strange to you if you're watching on YouTube and you only see me. My co host is running a few minutes late tonight, but he will be joining us here shortly. So, we'll be kicking off tonight. We are doing a preview of the AFC and NFC East divisions in the NFL. We'll also probably talk a little bit about the NBA schedule that just dropped. I'm sure my co-host is going to have some comments on this KD interview that he did with Draymond Green. And we'll talk about any other big things going on. And of course, as always, if you guys want to drop your comments in the chat, we'll talk about those as well. So make sure that you stay tuned. It's going to be a great show. We'll see y'all soon. The Play Callers. So welcome everybody to another Friday night live interactive sports talk. I will go ahead and save the NFC East and AFC East conversation until my co-host gets on because he's an Eagles fan. He has something to say, especially about the NFC East. So if you are joining us, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down there in the bottom right hand corner. Also, just so you know, we got a big announcement we're going to be giving you guys, but I'm going to again wait for my co-host to get here. That way we can give you the news together. But make sure you go and hit that subscribe button. If you are a fan of a AFC or NFC East team, let us know in the chat. Who's your team? What are you feeling? Like, we want to hear from you too. This isn't just us previewing these two divisions. We actually want to hear from you and what your thoughts are on the division as well. So make sure you drop that in the chat. So that is pretty much what's going to go on tonight. Now, since I am waiting on him before we get into this preview, I'm going to talk a little bit about this Draymond Green and KD interview. And what I'm going to tell you is this. And I know my co-host is going to have some comments on this as well, but I'm just going to give you my thoughts. I think a lot of people underestimate what goes on in the locker room. And I think sometimes we get caught up in these ideas of beef and all this kind of stuff. And there was obviously some issues there between these guys, right? But at the end of the day, these guys also understand that they're professionals. They have to get on and do what they got to do. They got to go out there and do what they got to do, excuse me. And so it was interesting to hear them talk about how their biggest disappointment wasn't really in each other. That's not why they actually left. Or KD said that's not why he left. The reason why he left was because Steve Kerr basically kind of just tried to sweep it under the rug, act like it didn't even happen. And that was something that he didn't really appreciate. KD didn't appreciate. Also, I think it was the team president was the other person they had an issue with. And they basically felt like, even KD felt like, hey, you're just trying to basically punish Draymond for this, and you just expect it to all go over. In other words, they felt like no one was really trying to solve the root issue, what was going on. So, and I see Cool has joined us in the green room, so I'm going to go and bring him on board. What's going on, good sir?
What's going on? I got to hop in on this topic here. Kevin Durant's full of crap. Straight full of crap. Okay. Kevin Durant, you're a liar. Draymond Green, you're an idiot for saying those type of things about the organization you got to go and play for. But Kevin Durant, back to you. You're a liar. You said before, when you left, and you can find the quotes, that one of the main reasons I left was because of the incident with Draymond Green. But Draymond Green wasn't there then. Now that Draymond Green's here, oh yeah, you're not the reason I left, man. I didn't like the way they handled things. You left because you have 15 to 20 probably burner accounts You care what every person in the world says about you on any social media platform, and you will attack teenagers, adults, women. You don't care. And you know that if you didn't leave that team and go find your own team and win there, that you were never going to be considered a real great player, and you can't handle that. That's why you left. You can make up whatever reasons. It's funny how they changed who you're around. But at the end of the day, you were going to leave before that season started because you saw what everybody was saying and you couldn't handle it. Straight up.
Now, I will say this. There is a possibility, just in playing devil's advocate here a little bit, just in listening to the words, right? That when he says, I left because of this incident, but then further elaborates and says, I'm not leaving just because we got into an argument. I'm leaving because of the way it was handled. I find that somewhat viable, but at the same time, I'm not going to say that anything you just said about Kevin Durant is untrue.
I find it not viable. I find it as anti-viable, the opposite of viable. Non-viable.
Viable and likely are not necessarily the same thing, sir. Just pointing that out.
I just want to say I don't find it viable, likely, any of that. Kevin Durant, no, he had to go to another team to submit his legacy, and he cares what people thinks. So because of that, he did what he did. But, of course, when Draymond's there, Draymond's not the main reason. Someone else is. But, hey, knowing what I know about Kevin Durant's personality, I'm not surprised.
So, of course, sir, I did save all the good stuff for you. I figured I'd go ahead and get that conversation out of the way. And if we want to talk a little bit about the NBA schedule, I'll be honest, I haven't looked it over that much just yet. I mean, it did just drop today after all. But, what I want to do is kind of talk about this whole NFC and AFC East preview. And I said, I have to say that for the Eagles fan, because he's going to be real upset if we start talking about, especially the NFC East. He's going to be real upset if I talk about that without him. So, but before we do that, man, there's another announcement that we need to make. So I'm going to let you do the honors. I'm going to let you tell everyone what's going on with the future of the Play Caller Sports Talk Show.
So essentially, we've decided that we're going to be part of the Sideline Sports Network for our show. So you'll be able to catch us still here Friday nights, 7 p.m. EST, but we'll also be associating ourselves with the Sideline Sports Network. We'll be, part of them. We'll also see us guests, on different shows that are on or affiliated with that. Keep on the lookout, more things coming, but that's just the tidbit we're going to give you right now. So for those of you who may not be aware of Sideline Sports Network, it's a new up-and-coming network. It's been around for about a year. They were gracious enough to bring us in and allow us to, kind of expand our platform and reach more people by being a part of them. And nothing will change with us. But like I said, it'll be more exposure for us. It'll be a chance for other people to see us, for you guys to maybe catch other shows. It'll be part of it, and a chance to see these two wonderful faces in more places. For those of you who may not be aware, I do some other work with them. I do a show on Monday nights, the NBA Carousel. That is part of their network, as well as a show on Thursdays, the NBA Sip Off. So I'm familiar with them. I've been working with them. It was something we decided to bring this show in and bring my co-hosts in as well, to help us grow and just do some things with that. So yeah, that's the announcement. There's more coming, hopefully in the future, but that's the part we're going to give you right now.
Yeah, I'll just add to that without giving any of the big stuff away, that you guys are just gonna have to wait for us to start to happen. This is going to mean a lot more opportunities for us to bring in people to expand out our show in terms of interviews and the content that we're going to be able to provide y'all. So this is nothing but love for y'all. This is nothing but good stuff for you, our fans. Which, speaking of, I do just want to say that we appreciate everyone who has tuned in and helped us grow this show over the course of the last year and a half, because it was your support that actually drew people attention our way. And that's why we're getting opportunities like this, is because of the support of our fans. So much love to everybody who especially those who have consistently tuned in, jumped in the chat, and been able to do it. I know nobody can really be here every week, but there's been quite a few of y'all that have been here real consistent. So appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So on the schedule release, man, I'll just say this. Obviously, it just happened today, so we'll need time to kind of delve into it, get into it, chop it up, kind of give our opinions on certain matchup and things that are happening. So we're going to do that. So be on the lookout for that, watching on replay or whatever in the coming weeks. So we'll definitely get into that. You know how we roll. We got to know a little bit about it. We got to kind of see it. We got to get with it. Go, right, Pat, right. Go. What's going on, Tyler? But yeah, it's one of those things, man. We'll definitely get into it. But like I said, we just want a little time, give you guys a chance to see it as well, get familiar with it. And then we're going to talk about that for sure.
Yeah. And Tyler, make sure that you tune in next week because we will be doing the North divisions. So I want to hear you come back and talk about your Packers next week too. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There's a lot going on that we're not going to touch too much on, but a lot of people getting paid in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not going to take the time because we're really going to need some time here, guys, to go over these two divisions, really, but especially the East. But, you know, Marcus Smart got a contract. You know, Terry Rozier got a nice payday, you know, in the past week. Of course, Kawhi's gotten paid. You know, Luka's gotten paid. You know, a lot of things happening. So we're going to kind of talk about some of those things. We're going to throw that in with the schedule, so be on the lookout for that in the next couple of weeks, and we'll kind of go into depth on that. We still have a couple more signings, so I feel like, you know, for me, and I'm sure my co-hosts as well, since they're still kind of moving, let's just let it finish up a little bit, mellow out, and then we'll just kind of jump on it. We'll eat into it, and we'll give you some of that wonderful play callers evaluation.
So for the main event, let's go ahead and jump on into this conversation. Now, because I have a feeling I might need the Homer alert button tonight, we're going to start over in the AFC.
That's a wise decision, sir.
Because otherwise, we're going to neglect our AFC East fans because they might get like 5 minutes at the end of the show. We'll be like, all right, we got like 30 seconds per team. Let's go.
5 minutes.
Let's go ahead. Yes, let's go ahead and give them some love first, and then we'll jump into the NFC East.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So let's start with last year's division champion, the Buffalo Bills, who finally knocked the Patriots off the pedestal out there. So I guess the first question is, has anybody in the AFC East done enough to challenge Buffalo for that crown? I don't think they have.
So my answer to the question is the Patriots have the only opportunity. The Patriots have done a lot of revamping, and they've had a lot of players that they didn't have last year that opted out, especially on the defensive side of the ball due to COVID, that are going to be back this year. So that's going to be a much stronger looking team. But honestly, truthfully, Miami's not there. The Jets are definitely not there. So the only competition that the Bills would have in the AFC East is going to be, you know, the Patriots. And then a lot of that's going to depend on who gets their quarterback position and what they can do with it throughout the year. But Buffalo's definitely the team to beat, in my opinion.
Now, when you look at Buffalo, last year, their defense wasn't that good. But that was okay because they didn't need to be, because their offense was pretty much like second ranked in every category. Except one. And that was running. I believe their quarterback actually was their leading rusher. So anytime you have a situation where your quarterback is your leading rusher, that is not a good sign, no matter how good of a runner your quarterback might be. And I don't know if he finished the season as their leading rusher, but I know at least at one point last season he was. So my thing is, Buffalo needs to establish a running game. And where I think they're going to maybe have some trouble with this is their offensive line is a little bit different than most offensive lines. They're actually really good in pass protection, but they're not that great at run blocking. And a lot of times you'll see the opposite, where offensive lines are really good at run blocking, but just okay in pass protection. Now, they obviously added some new weapons. I think Emmanuel Sanders was a huge add for that offense, which was already really good last year.
Matt Breida should be big for them as well.
Yeah. So I'm still picking them to win the division, even if the defense only is marginally better than it was last year, and even if the running game still struggles, they have enough weapons on that offense, and Josh Allen can still be a running threat, so at least gives you the threat of that. So I still feel confident in winning the division.
Yeah, definitely. They also added Starla Tulele from the Panthers. Jordan Poyer's on their team as well. They added Trayvon Hester, someone I'm familiar with, a DT that came from the Eagles. Good rotational player. So they've added some pieces themselves in the offseason as well to try to work on their defense, which definitely, clearly needed some work. But I think that, you're moving in the right direction. You always hope your draft class, you maybe get some guys from there that are going to be a step in and help with some of those roles, at least provide depth and situational plays and things like that. So I think that Buffalo's going to do enough to be able to stay where they're at on top of the division. But like I said, right on the heels, if they falter, it's going to be this revamped Patriots team.
Yeah, the Patriots are a team, man, that I think a lot of people look at, and last year they just kind of wrapped it up to, oh, Brady's gone. That's why they were bad. But keep in mind that a quote unquote bad Patriots team had pretty much their whole defense opt out. And they had Cam, who was actually playing pretty well before he got COVID, really struggled afterwards. And they still won 7 games. This was not a garbage team by any means. So you get those guys back that opted out last year. You've added a bunch of pieces in free agency, especially on the offensive side of the ball. You added some guys who can come in and give you a little bit of help for whoever it's the quarterback's going to be. The thing I see hurting the Patriots is very simple. Normally, when you have 2 quarterbacks on a roster, there might be some things that one guy does that the other doesn't. But for the most part, their games are similar enough that your offense is basically the same. When you talk about Cam versus Mac Jones, you're talking about 2 almost completely different quarterbacks style-wise. So I'm going to be curious to see, without having a set starter through the entire offseason, how long it takes that offense to really get going. Because pretty much it's going to be once they decide who the starter is, which won't be for at least another week or 2 probably. Now they're going to have to try to get everybody really into that one style of offense. So it may not be a problem for them, but that would be the question mark I have if I'm a Patriots fan.
Yeah, man. Honestly, man, when I look at it, it's Cam's job to lose. I think the line, the offense, a lot of the players, new and old, are more familiar with this style of play. He played against the Eagles last night. Obviously, a lot of Eagles starters didn't play because we'd already kind of went up against them and kind of had our way with them in 2 practices. So 2 joint practices. So no need to really, get guys out there to possibly get injured in that game. But I think they've made a lot of good moves that are going to be very beneficial to them. You look at, they brought in Nelson Aguilar. They brought in Kendrick Bourne, 2 guys that have a lot of speed. Aguilar had a good season last year. Before that, a lot of problems when he was with Philly, but a good season last year. They brought in Jalen Mills as safety. Jalen Mills is a guy, plug and play. You may need him to come in and start a few games, or he has a really strong defense around him. He's a good player. He's not a bad player. And a lot of other guys they brought in as well, and a lot of guys that came back from injury. So that's going to be a much different team, like I said. But the thing that you really want to focus on, tight end. They've always been the best when they had tight ends. Now they have Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. So now you can see something similar to what you saw back when they had Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. 2 guys that really can play, really can catch, will take yards, and can be like a receiver in this offense. That's what they've always had. So you add that to those other pieces, man, and you're looking at a really dangerous team. But like you said, Cam gets hurt. Something happens and he loses the job to Mac Jones, or Mac Jones gets hurt and Cam has to come back in. There's going to be a lot of differences in the style depending on the quarterback. You can open lanes for Cam and he can run. Mac Jones, not so much. Cam's going to be better at reading NFL defenses, a lot of experience. Looks really sharp so far in the preseason and workouts that I've seen. So he's a guy that I think has the job to lose, but I think you want to let Mac Jones keep fighting to see if he can give you something to make you be like, there's a reason for me to bitch Cam, but you're going to have to show me that there's a reason. I think that's the only way that Cam is not their quarterback. But, the defense is going to be better. You give Cam a good defense, and, hey, we've already seen what he can do. He's taken a team to the Super Bowl without really great wide receivers with a solid defense.
Yeah, and Tyler just said, he thinks the Patriots will be improved. The defense is going to keep them in games, which I agree. But it's still the Bills' division to lose. And a guy that you mentioned in there, Kendrick Bourne, that's a guy that I think if people don't know him are going to be like, okay, that's not really a big signing. He's a guy I'm familiar with because he was in San Francisco, and people don't realize that. Now, part of this was because Debo didn't play for the entire season because his first year he had to get acclimated. But the thing is, Kendrick Bourne actually led the 49ers in receiving 2 years in a row. So this is a guy who, while he's not like an all-star Pro Bowl type player, he's a very, very solid receiver. And when you look at the other pieces that my co-host named that they added to that offense, that's exactly the kind of guy you want to complement some of those big names. So I'm actually really impressed with what they put together in the offseason up there in New England.
Yeah, they did a lot, man. I mean, I haven't seen New England do it before, but I think they position themselves to have a lot of money in free agency, and rather they get a little wild and go after some of the top guys, they went and got a real solid group of guys that together, with a window, because a lot of them are signed 2, 3, 4 year deals. So you've got a little solid window in here to see what you can do. And I think now we're going to see Belichick without Brady. I think everybody got into this whole, Brady won a Super Bowl and Belichick's team was sucked, so it was all Brady. Let's watch this year. Let's see what happens when Belichick has his full complement of players before we go and put everything, all the greatness that happened in New England on Tom Brady, because it definitely wasn't all him. Clearly he's part of it, but we're going to see that Belichick, I think, was a good part of that as well. And keep in mind, I don't like either one of those guys whatsoever, but you have to give credit where credit's due, period.
Yeah, absolutely. So going to the team that I think could challenge for second place in the division. I think they'll end up third, but the team I think could challenge for that second place spot, Miami Dolphins.
I know it's not.
Well, if I said the Jets, I wouldn't even blame you if you just like show's over.
Bruh, if you said Jets, I was just gonna turn my video off for a few seconds and just get my life together.
We're not even partners no more. This is just ridiculous. There's no show anymore. But yeah, man, when I look at the Dolphins, the defense is solid. They play more of a bend, don't break. They're not like a dominating defense, but they don't allow a lot of points. They really make you take little pieces. They really make that whole philosophy of take what the defense gives you.
Yeah.
Well, they don't give you much. They make you work for it. They make you earn it. They make you be consistent for the entire game because you're only going to get little chunks against them. And that secondary is really solid. Now, offensively, the question obviously is going to be, can Tua take the next step? And if he does, that's where they have the potential to be dangerous, because they went out and added a guy in Will Fuller who, if he can stay healthy, gives them a lot. They got Parker, who actually came on really strong, and they just added Waddle. So theoretically, they have some weapons to be able to throw to. And I think they actually added a couple of tight ends as well. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but I know they added at least one good pass-catching tight end as well. So Tua's going to have weapons. The offensive line, they've kind of made it a little bit better. But this is still a young team, and I think ultimately that's what's going to hurt them, is the fact that this is still a really young team. And that's where I think New England's going to benefit, because with Belichick running things up there, I think that's what gives New England that edge with finishing second in the division. But I think Miami has the potential to challenge them, honestly.
Well, the tight ends that you're referring to are Ethan Carter and Durham Smythe. they're both, not bad guys. They project to be pretty decent. But it all goes to Jasicki. It's all Jasicki.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to have to be Jasicki. And they have a lot of wide receivers. They have Albert Wilson there as well. Devontae Parker, I think you mentioned. They have a plethora of guys that they can choose from at the wide receiver position. But I think the big thing is none of those guys are really needle movers, right? They're guys that they do what they do. They're part of it, but they're not needle movers. So I think, if you're Miami, you're kind of looking like, okay, let's hope Waddle is that guy for us, right? But he's a rookie. Tua's still developing. They have a chemistry from their time in Alabama together. But, you're hoping, first of all, Waddle's healthy because you need him to be healthy. But, I don't see them really challenging for second place, but I see them being solidly in third place. A couple things go the right way. Maybe they luck up into a half a game, lead over. But I just don't see them being able to contend with New England. But I do see them making steps if Tua can develop. There's nobody to put it in the fourth quarter now when the game's on the line. You got to go with Tua.
Yeah. I do see we have some more people actually tuning in live. We have not yet covered the NFC East. So if you are a fan of the NFC East team, make sure you stick around. We are going to be covering your team here momentarily. Matter of fact, jump in the chat and let us know who your team is. We want to hear how you think they're going to end up doing.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about those Jets Jets.
Like Tyler said, I feel you, Tyler. If he had said Jets, I'd be like, bro, I ain't even mad if you're not tuning in. What is this guy talking about?
Bro, if I had said the Jets, I wouldn't even tune in next week. I just would have took the walk of shame, man. I just been like, yeah, my bad. I don't know what I was thinking. But yeah, I would just blame Steve Kerr. That would have been what I would have done. So when I look at the Jets, man, this is a team that has question marks all over the place. Obviously, they got the number 2 pick. They should have had the number 1 pick, but they couldn't even lose right. So here you are, you got the number 2 pick, and you picked the guy that you and I talked about before the draft. Everybody hyped him up. I liked him when the Niners were picking at 12. I didn't like him at 2. Because I felt like Fields was better. I felt like Lance was better. So at best case, I thought he should have been like the 4th quarterback off the board. But, they took him at 2. And the reports are he's struggling. You just lost Lawson to a torn ACL, or I think it was Achilles.
It was Achilles, yeah. Yeah. And they lost to safety as well. So they lost
but he was a backup safety.
Yeah, but still, on that team, he probably could have been the number 1 in 3 practices.
So you don't have the pieces. And keep in mind, as a Niners fan, I know Robert Saleh very well. And what I can tell you is, I know everyone has this idea that he's going to go in there, he's going to turn that defense around, it's going to be great. The first year he was in San Francisco, it was not pretty. Our defense was bad. And then we went out and we got a whole lot of people, including D Ford and Nick Bosa, and all of a sudden defense became great. Now, Saleh's obviously grown as a defense coordinator. Last year he did a great job, even with all the injuries. Mm-hmm. So I'm not suggesting that he's necessarily going to revert back to like his first year as a defensive coordinator. But what I am saying is he has nowhere near the talent, especially with Lawson out for the season now. He has nowhere near the talent to be able to get that defense up. It's going to take them a couple years to build that defense. That offense is not going to be good right away. This is a team that will be picking in the top 5, probably the top 3, possibly second. Because we all know, because we told you last week who's going to be picking number 1. If you don't know and you need to find out, go back and watch last week's show. We told you we we're going to be picking number 1 next year. So
book it, seal it, guarantee it.
So the Jets might be picking at number 2 again this year. But honestly, man, that's okay. Because this year is not about them winning. This year is about them developing some of these young guys and starting to get the pieces in place to actually build up a winning organization. So it's okay that they're going to suck this year. Sometimes you have to suck. It is what it is.
Well, man, we said before the draft on our show after the draft when we were talking about quarterbacks who would struggle. We both wanted to pick this dude, but obviously we had to agree to pick different people. Clearly the easiest choice. But, he should improve, right? All jokes aside, I mean, the kid can play. He can play quarterback. I mean, he hasn't done it in the NFL yet. Some people take longer than others. They don't come along right away. He's not going to. It's going to be a struggle. He's going to get hit a lot. It's going to be ugly. They're going to get scored on a lot. They did pick up Corey Davis, so he has somebody to throw the ball to. But the problem is Corey Davis is going to probably be unhappy because you are the number one, but you're at a place where you were better off being the number 2 in Tennessee. Just being real. There's not a lot of positives that you can honestly say about this team. They do have C.J. Mosley at linebacker. He's a really good linebacker. Mm-hmm. The offensive line is not horrible. Jamison Crowder's still there. He's a decent, wide receiver.
Yeah.
They did draft a kid that I'm familiar with from Miami, Braxton Berrios. He should be great in the slot for them. I'm not just saying this because I'm a Miami fan. It just so happens that because I am, I get a chance to really see him play throughout college. He should be a really good slot receiver. So hopefully he'll get a chance to be used in that role a little bit this year. They have Keelan Cole as well. So they have some names, some weapons, but if you can't get the ball out, you're not going to be able to read the defenses, and the line is not the best, not a top 15 line in the NFL.
Yeah.
They're going to be a bad team. I'm not booking, but I'm thinking number 2 pick for the Jets.
So one thing I will say is in terms of the offensive line, remember they drafted Becton last year, and then they just added Vera Tucker. So they're putting some good young pieces on that offensive line. Elijah Moore is another guy that is going to be really good for them. Yep. So they have some pieces. Yeah, they have some pieces, but they're all young. And so that's the question is, will those guys develop? And if they can get them to develop, they might actually be good in a couple of years. But sorry, Jets fans, it's not going to be this year.
Yeah, and I think Jets fans already knew that. We shouldn't be telling you anything that you did not know. We should not be giving you any information that you were not already aware of if you're a Jets fan.
Yeah. All right, sir. It's time. Flipping over to the NFC East. I know you're excited, but we have to always start off with the division champion from last year. So the floor is yours. Talk to me about the Washington football team.
The Washington football team won a division that nobody wanted to win. Kudos to them because somebody had to win. I think they had the best quarterback that was left in the division last year. And Alex Smith, once they actually had sense enough to put him in a play. They had the best defense in the division. Their front four, I am so thankful, very thankful that the Eagles have a solid offensive line. Now that most of those guys are back from injury. And some of them we needed to jettison, and I'm glad we did. But I just honestly believe, man, the football team is going to have a say in who wins the division. Because if you can go in there and you can withstand that defense and find a way to win games, you're going to have a pretty good shot at winning the division. I think the division winner out of this division is going to be probably 9 to 10 wins. I only think one team out of the division gets in the playoffs. I'll explain why I think that when we have our last preview. But I will say this. If Ryan Fitzpatrick can be Fitzmagic for 12 games for them, they have a good chance to win a division. History says it'll probably be more like 7 to 8 games, and that probably won't win a division. They've had some upgrades, some upgrades. They've gotten a little bit better wide receiver to put around whoever's the quarterback. They have some solid running backs. They haven't really had anyone to me that's kind of all the way taken the reins and said, I'm the guy yet. but they have some guys that are going to be, capable of doing it, I think. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they develop throughout the season. If Taylor Heineke steals that job from Ryan Fitzpatrick, if I'm a football team fan, I probably want that to happen because, like I said, Fitzpatrick's going to give you maybe 7 or 8 max of good games. The rest of the games, you're going to be very upset that he's your quarterback, and you're going to be cursing your organization for bringing him in, throwing your football team shirts down, and storming out of games early.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a situation where, like you said, and it wasn't just last year. It's been the last several years where it seems like no one actually wants to ever win this division. And this is honestly possibly the hardest division to predict in terms of where all 4 teams are going to end up at. Shoot, this might be the hardest division to pick who's going to win. Because you either could have a bunch of teams again win this division, or not a bunch of teams win, but somebody win this division at like 9 wins because everybody's kind of bunched together. Or you could have several teams in this division win 11 or 12 games. It's like that's kind of competitiveness that exists in this division. And it's really a weird dynamic. But when I look at Washington, it all really starts with that defense. That defense has the potential to keep them in games. And as you pointed out with Fitzpatrick, he's going to probably give you 7 or 8 games where he's going to go out there and play phenomenal. If the defense can step up and give them 2 or 3 other wins when he plays poorly, I don't think 10 wins is out of the question for this team. So that's what's going to be really interesting to see is, can that defense stay healthy and pick up some of the slack? Obviously, the big question offensively is, have you found anybody who can be a number 2 receiver?
Well, they went out and got his running mate from Ohio State from the Panthers. So I guess they're assuming he's going to be a number 2. And then their tight end has been playing really well. He played well last year, and he's played well in the preseason. This is where I think the football team is going to run into a little trouble at. They're the team who won the division last year. You know what that means? They're playing the more difficult teams based on where they finished last year from the other divisions. So that, 3 games or 2 games, I think it's 3 games, that could really make a big difference in where they end up in this division, because I think 2 to 3 difficult games versus harder games could make or break your season. Yeah. I do agree with Tyler's comment about Heineke. He's going to get in eventually. Fitzpatrick's the only thing that's stopping him from playing, so he's going to get in. If he is a really good quarterback for them, then that could make them a little bit more dangerous. I'm going to have them finishing. I'm debating between 2nd and 3rd. I'm going to say that they end up finishing slightly below the 2nd place, so I'm going to put them in 3rd place. But I think, like you said, depending on how a few things go, that could, change. But that's where I think that they're going to end up at. And that's not a negative, but they could end up in 2nd. So let me put it this way. The gap between 2nd and 3rd, based on how I feel, is very slight, right? Yeah. It's very slight, maybe a game.
Yeah.
If that. Maybe just division record. So I think it's really tight between them and another team. I don't want to give it away yet, but I think that they'll finish in 3rd is where I have them now, but I would not be surprised if they finished in 2nd, but I don't have them winning the division.
Yeah. So by the way, you're talking about the wide receivers. So they added both Curtis Samuel and Adam Humphries.
Curtis Samuel was his running mate.
Yeah. So the thing is, while those both seem like pretty good additions, we're going to have to wait to see when they actually get on the field. Will one of them actually step up and be that number 2? Because we know who the number 1 is. Scary Terry is the number 1. That's not even up for debate. So the question becomes, can the other receivers actually do enough? Now, these are obviously upgrades over what they have. I'm just going to be curious to see if they're enough. So that's where I'm going to be interested to see. Now, when we talk about Heineke, it's a hit or miss. Because on one hand, I agree with Tyler that they they don't have a lot of film on this guy, right? So he could come in early in the season. He'll catch a couple people off guard just because they don't know much about him yet. They only have one game. The thing is, we're basing some of our assumptions off of one game too. And the thing is, remember that the Bucks also had no film on him for that game. So this is not like, oh, this is what he looked like going against the defense that was prepared for him. And we all know once you play 2 or 3 games in the NFL, that's enough for defensive coordinators to start picking up on some of your tendencies and start locking in on you, giving you some trouble. So while it sounds great, and I would like to see him get a chance if he earns it, that might not be a good thing. So that's what will be interesting to kind of see with Washington this year. But I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I don't have them finishing last, but I also don't have them repeating and win the division again. So I'm gonna say second or third. And like you said, it's gonna kind of depend on how some stuff falls because it's gonna be a really tight race.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, I know you're chomping at the bit, man, but I'm gonna make you sweat this out. So,
not yet.
We're gonna go to the team that finished second in the division last year. Which, by the way, just in case anybody doesn't know this, the Eagles finished in last, and they were only like 2 games out. So that's how ridiculously tight this division was last year.
So we have Big E Nelson that has made an appearance.
All right, Big E. We want to hear from you too, because it's time to talk about them G-men.
Talk about the Giants.
So go ahead, man. Talk to me about the Giants, man. What's your outlook for 2021?
All right, so the Giants, man, they're at the bottom, bro. Daniel Jones hasn't impressed me whatsoever as a quarterback in the NFL. And without him being good, there's no way that they're going to finish anything other than last. But I think last place in the division this year is going to be better than first place in the division last year. Because I think that what we're going to see is that a lot of the teams in the division, they're going to be able to now go out and beat some of those teams outside of the division, which we have not been doing in the last few years. So all of you people that have been talking about how the NFC East is not as good as the other divisions and it's the worst division, we're going to change that narrative for you this year. We're going to win games outside of the division because a lot of us have done things to repair a lot of the holes that we've had. The Giants have had an actually really good offseason. First of all, they got back Saquon Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a gift for them. You know, receivers that they picked up, Kenny Galladay,
mm-hmm.
John Ross. They picked up Corey Clement from the Philadelphia Eagles. You know, they got Adoree Jackson. They got Logan Ryan from the Titans. So they've added pieces to this team. The one piece that I think they should have added, they didn't, was a guy who could really challenge at tight end. They did bring in Cole Hikutini, I believe is how his name is pronounced. That may be incorrect, but I believe that's it. He has a possibility to be a guy that can, you know, get into game situations and make some things happen. But you're going to have to, if you're the Giants, Daniel Jones is going to have to be better. Right? So if he's not better, you can't win. And I'm sorry, you can put Saquon back there. You know, you could do everything you want to do with Saquon. But here at the end of the day, the truth of the fact of the matter is, if he doesn't have a quarterback who makes the receivers a threat, they're going to key on him. They're going to take him out of the game. And then they're going to make Daniel Jones beat you. And guess what? That is a great game plan if you're playing the Giants. That is a wonderful game plan. Now, Eric, please enlighten us into who is your second string running back.
I don't know for sure because I haven't looked at their depth chart, but I'm going to guess it's probably Devontae Booker.
That's what I was thinking. And he is actually not bad. Now, I did forget to mention this. They did bring in Levine Toilolo at tight end. He's a guy that probably would have been a start on any other team besides the one that he was on with the Falcons. Eric is white. They did tweak the line a little bit. So it'll be somewhat better. But I never really felt like the line was too much of a problem. I mean, it's not the greatest line. I think it's an average line. It's a middle of the pack line. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's Daniel Jones, man. You've got other pieces around you, but you've got to have that guy behind center that gets the job done. Daniel Jones comes out and has a transcendent season. I'm not even going to go that far because I don't think he's going to do that. But let's say Daniel Jones comes out and he has a really good season. He shows people that he's able to take that leap. Then maybe the Giants finish higher than I'm anticipating. But I have to base it on what I've seen from him so far. I think you got at least another year before you're going to really be able to compete, because I think Daniel Jones is going to hold you back, even with Saquon Barkley back. And he may have a little time before he can really, get himself back into Saquon Barkley mode coming off the injury.
So when I look at what the Giants did, as Eric pointed out, they did make some tweaks to the offensive line. As you see there, he says they were the reason he predicted the Saquon injury. But so they actually fixed the offensive line a little bit, which should help. Yeah. They lost Wayne Gallman, they added Booker, and then they drafted Kadarius Toney. And Kadarius Toney is a guy that you can line up in the slot, you can put him at running back. So they were smart to go out and get some playmakers who can take some of those touches off of Saquon to keep him a little bit fresher and hopefully keep him from getting injured. That's going to be a huge thing for them. Obviously, go ahead.
You know who they didn't get a wide receiver?
Who?
Devontae Smith. That's what they didn't get.
We're going to talk about the Eagles soon, man. Just calm down.
I just want to make sure that Giants fans remember that you wanted him, but you didn't get him. That's all I want to say.
So, Eric actually just pointed out what I was about to point out, which is this is it, man. This is the year for Danny Dimes. If he does not play well this year, then the Giants have to take a serious look at what they want to do. I believe that was for you, sir. Silence.
Yeah, silence with that, sir, is definitely for me.
So, yeah. So, when I look at his progression, Daniel Jones has gotten, I would say, consistently better each year, but he's never been like leaps and bounds better. It's always been like microscopic improvement. So the question is, can he take a huge step forward this year? Because here's the newsflash. He has to. Because this division is going to be tough. Remember, Dallas was the team last year that had a ton of injuries. The only team that actually had more injuries than Dallas was San Francisco. So Dallas lost a lot of pieces. And we all know they had poor coaching, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, the Eagles lost all their line except for their center.
Yeah, and the Eagles had tons of injuries as well. So this is a division is going to be tough, and you're going to need your quarterback to come out and play well. Now, defensively, the Giants showed last year some real development on defense. They played great defense. They added some good pieces. Ojulari, I think, was a great pickup for them in the draft. So I like what they're doing defensively. I like the fact they added playmakers around Danny Dimes to try to balance the offense out a little bit. And I like the fact they're trying to establish a running game so that they're not having to run him as much. But if he can't take that next step, man, they're going to be in trouble. And that's why if I'm picking where I'm going to place the Giants at, I'm feeling like if Washington finishes second, the Giants could finish third if Danny Dimes plays really well. But if he doesn't play well, or if he just plays average, they're last place. So Eric, I'm going to comment, or Billy, I'm going to comment on this. Galladay would be a huge compliment for Jones. Honestly, I don't know that I consider Galladay a huge upgrade over Golden Tate. I mean, could you argue that he's better? Sure. A huge upgrade? Not really thinking it's a huge upgrade. Wow. Just my personal opinion.
Wow. He caught me with that one, y'all. They caught me with that one. Galladay, bro, is the number one. You know what I'm saying? Injuries are a problem with him, but when he plays, he can play size, speed, youth. Got a chip on his shoulder with everything that went down in Detroit. I agree with Billy V. I think that Galladay is going to be a guy. Now, here's the problem. You're still getting the quarterback, the ball from Daniel Jones. So I think that's where your problem comes in at. But as far as Galladay himself, I think he's going to be a beast till he plays us.
Well, let me put it this way to you. If a guy can't stay healthy, didn't we just get through knocking Ryan Fitzpatrick for only being Fitzmagic 7 or 8 games a year?
Well, I said if he can stay healthy. I mean, skill wise. I mean, he's a beast skill wise.
I mean, skill wise don't matter though. I mean, look, we're gonna have this conversation in a couple weeks when we do the NFC West, and we're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, right? Jimmy Garoppolo. The reason we drafted the quarterback at 3 is because Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't stay healthy. Okay, but I don't care how talented you are. If you can't be on the field, you're not a freaking upgrade.
But I think with Galladay, the thing is, I think he just didn't really want to play for Detroit anymore. And I think he could have came back. He just said, you know what, I'm gonna save myself to be ready for next year. But I think Galladay's a good. He's a baller, but he is getting the ball from Daniel Jones, so that's going to limit his effectiveness because if your quarterback's not good, no matter how great of a player you are, it's going to hurt your stats.
Yeah, I would also go ahead and say Matt Stafford is a much better quarterback than Danny Dimes. And the Detroit Lions won how many playoff games? Just throwing it out there, man. Just throwing it out there.
That's factual information, sir. It's factual information. Very factual information.
So yeah, so that's the Giants.
Yes, sir.
Now
we're gonna go to the Cowboys.
Let's talk about them Cowboys. So Jerry Jones, we know what Jerry Jones thinks, right? Jerry Jones is like he's tired. He said he's tired of it, man. So did the Dallas Cowboys do enough to make Jerry Jones happy this year?
So here's how I'm gonna answer this question, right? We could go through all the players they have, all the players they're at. At the end of the day, none of that matters because they've had great teams on paper for years. What we need to see from Dallas as the NFL, as the NFCs, as the NFC, right? Are you going to put it together on the field defensively? You got CeeDee Lamb, right? You know, you got Ezekiel Elliott. If he's healthy, because shoulder problems already for Dak. But I think a lot of that is just trying to compensate for the leg injury last year. Right? You've got Amari Cooper. You know, you've got players. I'm not going to take them all. I'm going to give you some people to talk about too, but you've got players on offense. You can get things done. Your line is not as good as it's been in the past, but it's still a pretty decent line. Now, the question is, what are you going to do once you score or if the other team gets the ball first? What are you going to do if you have a turnover? What are you going to do if you have to punt? Because that defense has not been good for years. And until your defense gets better, it's going to hamper you a lot. I think the defense is going to hold them back. There's not really a lot more I need to say about Dallas because we've heard about Dallas all year since the season started last year. Every week, every network, all the time, all we hear about is Dallas. Like they're actually winning Super Bowls. But that's another story. So I'll simply say this. Dallas is going to finish second in the division, possibly third. And that's all I have to say about Dallas.
Yeah, so here's the thing with Dallas. The big question mark is obviously Dak. Can he stay on the field? You just paid him, so you better hope so. Because, again, if Dak goes down, what do you have behind him? Well, we saw last year what you had behind him. And Andy Dalton was probably the best guy you had behind him, and he's in Chicago now. So, if Dak can't play, the Cowboys are in big time trouble. And Mo said, enough said, maybe fourth. So here's the thing. When I look at Dallas, there's some question marks on our offensive line. Okay, that offensive line was really monstrous a couple years ago, but injuries and different things have really taken a toll on that offensive line. The guy who needs to step up in Dallas the most on offense is Ezekiel Elliott. He did not play well last year. There is absolutely no reason, even with the line being a little bit banged up, there's no reason with the weapons that you have a wide receiver on that football team that you can't sit there and tell me that you don't have some running lanes and that you can't get into the second level and run some guys over and make some plays. Ezekiel Elliott needs to stop being soft. And he needs to go out there and he needs to play football this year. He needs to actually go out there and show people that he was worth the draft pick that was spent on him. Because what was he, like the second or third overall pick? Maybe like
he was
fourth.
high, definitely.
He's like top five. So he needs to go out there and prove that he was a top 5 pick. Ever since he got paid, man, he's been playing soft. So he needs to go out there and he needs to play better. Now, defensively, you went and added Parsons, which was a great ad for you. And you got rid of Mike Nolan, but you brought in Dan Quinn. I don't know if Dallas fans know this or not, but the Falcons' defense wasn't that good. And Dan Quinn had years to build that defense up. So all you did was you brought in a guy who had this reputation because of the Legion of Boom. And the fact of the matter is he never replicated that in Atlanta. He's not going to replicate it in Dallas. And Tyler, I'm going to agree with you because here's the thing. Mike McCarthy, I said 2 years ago when they hired him, it was a terrible hire. I have not backed off that statement since. I will not back off of that statement until Mike McCarthy proves me wrong. It was a bad hire. It was a bad defensive hire to hire Mike Nolan last year. It was a bad defensive hire for what they did this year. And coaching is what's going to continue to hold the Dallas Cowboys back. I'm actually going to agree with Mo. I actually think Dallas getting up third or fourth in this division.
Now, fair enough.
Now, look. Now, just to be fair to Cowboys fans, if Dak can stay healthy, if Zeke actually goes out there and plays football, and the defense can even be halfway decent, they can also win this division. So, I want to be fair with that, but I'm accounting for the coaching and the fact that Dak's probably not going to stay healthy.
I would like to say I think Mike McCarthy was a great hire. I think Mike Nolan was an excellent hire for the Cowboys. And I hope that they give both of those guys 10 years extensions. Let's go McCarthy. Let's go Nolan. Let's go. The staff that they have, I think it's great for the Cowboys.
Please keep in mind that all this is coming from an Eagles fan.
All of it.
All right, so let me just go ahead and do this real quick, man.
Yes, you
go ahead and talk about the Eagles, man. Just go ahead and talk about the Eagles, man.
Listen, don't even blink it. Just put the home alert across the screen, baby, because we getting ready to get it. Okay, we getting ready to get it. Here it is. The best secondary in the NFC East is in Philadelphia. Straight up. You got big play Slay. Then we went and got him a wonderful compliment. It's on, right? It's on. We got some questions at linebacker, but if you've heard about practices, preseason games, the joint practices we have with other teams, the linebackers have been playing really well. They've been very aggressive. They've been attacking. Not going to take the time to name all of them, but they have played really, really well. The front four, you already know about it. The safeties, we don't even need to talk about that. We know what's up, right? They were good last year. The cornerback is going to be better. Problem we'll have to put in our rookie if one of our corners gets injured, which could affect, what we're doing. But all in all, the Eagles are going to win the East. 10 wins. And I'm going to tell you why. We're going to be able to run the ball. We're going to be able to go with Miles Sanders. If we keep Holyfield still is not going to make it, unfortunately. I like him, but he's not going to be able to make the team. There's too much talent in front of him, right? But you look at what we have. We'll come back to running back. No. Let's go ahead and go there. I'm excited, y'all. So I'm jumping around a bit. I'm excited, y'all. Let's go. I've been waiting for this all week. So you look at Jordan Howard. He's going to make the team. Miles Sanders is definitely going to make the team. Boston Scott, more than likely, but he may not, because Gainwell may take Boston Scott out, because Gainwell has been balling. And he's projected to be our third or maybe a practice squad guy, and he's giving it to him. He's showing every practice, he's showing every game that he's ready to just go out there and play. Now, when we start talking about wide receiver, let's get real with it. Devontae Smith is going to be a beast. Period. Devontae Smith is going to be a beast. Greg Ward is still there. He'll be depth. He won't be a starter, but he'll be there. He'll be depth. Quez Watkins has taken somebody's job. Quez Watkins will be a starter on this wide receiver court. He's fast. He's aggressive. He high points the ball. He has height. And he has not just speed, but also quickness. So that's happening. And Jalen Reagor, he's shown a little bit. He's not shown a little bit. I agree with Mo. Welcome home, Jordan Howard, if you make the team. Because like I said, running back is going to be very difficult to make those cuts. So you better come with it. We could go through every wide receiver, but I also talk about Fulgham. He hasn't been getting a lot of first-team snaps, but I guarantee you when games come, you're going to need him. Size, speed, height, a little bit of a build, more of a bigger receiver. We don't have a lot of those guys, so you're going to want one of those. Tight end is a problem. Tyree Jackson's hurt. He's out. We also lost another one of our tight ends. So we're down to pretty much guys that will really get playing time. It's probably going to be Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, and then Richard Rodgers. But Tyree Jackson was a star training camp, monster, former quarterback. He took to the tight end with no problem and has been killing it. But, again, he's going to be out. You know, Jordan Mailata is going to be the left tackle. Major upgrade over what we had there last year. When he did play last year, he did well. The rest of the line is going to be the same as it was last year. Before injuries, one of the best lines in the league. And we're going to come to the last piece that I'm going to talk about. And that's my man, Jalen Hurts. People talk bad about Jalen Hurts. Eagles fans don't support him. Eagles fans don't think he's going to do a good job. But guess what? When you put him out there on the field at every level that he's played at, he's done a good job. When you put him out there with subpar talent, guys that were beat down, guys that almost were depressed because they were playing for that jabroni that we had to send to the Colts in a Trojan horse package and pretend like he was healthy, he's going to get out there and he's going to play. Is he going to be a top 10 quarterback? No. Can he make enough plays for us to win with the running game we should put out there this year? Absolutely. So Mo is an example of what I'm talking about. I'm still concerned about our QB situation. Plenty of weapons, but I just see way more than what they have shown so far. What have they shown you so far? It's the preseason. You want us to put our franchise possible quarterback out in the preseason when so many people are getting hurt so he can get hurt so that everybody can say, oh, Jalen Hurts is always hurt. He can't stay hurt. He's no better than Carson Wentz. No. Oh, and on top of that, just in case you weren't made aware, he had a stomach issue, which is why he didn't play yesterday. He was actually going to play a series or two. But at the end of the day, I don't care what we see in the preseason. I'm not worried about losing 35-0. And for all the Eagles fans who cry about that, can you just understand one thing? You don't win Super Bowls in the preseason. Baltimore hasn't lost a preseason game in 2-3 years? How many Super Bowls did they have to show for it? None. How many appearances in the Super Bowl did they have to show for it? None. So it doesn't matter what happens as long as you get your team through the preseason intact without a lot of injuries. That's where we're at so far. One more preseason game to go, and then it's going to get real. 9-10 wins, Philadelphia. We win the division. Giants get out the way. Cowboys get out the way. Football team get out the way. Y'all can fight for a second. Let's go.
So, here's what I'm gonna say. You pretty much just covered all the Eagles. There's really not a whole lot to add, except for I will say this. I actually agree with Mo. Because here's what I hear Mo saying. I don't see Mo saying, and maybe he is saying this, and I'm just reading it differently. But I'm reading it as he's not necessarily saying that Jalen Hurts is going to be bad. He's just saying that right now we haven't seen him be great. We haven't seen anything to suggest that he's going to be able to take that next step. And you know what? We can't criticize Danny Dimes for not having taken that next step yet and then give Jalen Hurts some kind of magical pony pass because you think he's going to be great, okay? We can't do that, man. That's why we put the homer alert on you.
Oh, yeah? Well, let me ask you this question. Who looked good when they played last year with a raggedy team? The same team that Mo's boy, Carson Wentz, couldn't do anything with, right? Who looked good playing with that team? Who's been with his wide receivers this offseason, working, getting better, running routes with them, understanding how they want the ball, where they want the ball? Who's been doing that?
But again, we haven't seen him really do this in action. Could you say, well, he looked pretty good? You could say, oh, did he play? Did he look good in a couple of games last year? Yeah, he looked good in a couple of games, but guess what, though? As we said earlier, when there's not a lot of film on you, it's easier to go out there and look good. Once there's some film on you, that starts to change. And again, I'm not sitting here saying that Jalen Hurts can't be good. I'm just saying that we haven't seen enough to go anoint him yet. That's all I'm saying.
We don't need to anoint him. I'm not saying anoint him. I'm saying he's going to be our starting quarterback next year, and he's going to play good enough with what we expect out of him to do for us to win. We're not asking him to go out there and be Tom Brady. We're not asking him to go out there and be Russell Wilson. We're not asking him to go out there and be Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance. We're not asking him to go out there and be Dak Prescott. We're asking him to go out there, manage the game, use your legs, not make a lot of turnovers, allow your renegade to do the thing, allow the screen game to work. That's what we're asking him to do. We're not asking him to be an MVP. We're not asking him to be a candidate. We're not asking him to be a great quarterback. We're asking him to be a game manager, use his legs, and come into it as he matures in the game of football.
Let me go on Danny Green. You want to crown him? Crown him.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not sitting here saying, and if anybody misconstrues what I'm saying about Jalen Hurts, let me break it down for you as simple as possible. Jalen Hurts will be a game manager with good legs. Jalen Hurts will be able to look at the seam and say, I can't make my reads. Let me get a few yards on the ground and let me slide. That's what he's going to be able to do. He's going to be able to open it up. He's going to be able to make it happen. And when he makes it happen, I'm not even going to say, I told you so. I'm not even going to get up here and brag and stick my chest out. You know why? Because I already knew it was going to happen. And when you already know it's going to happen, why do you need to celebrate when it does?
Yep. So we are pretty much over time here, but before we wrap this up, we've now discussed. I think we're pretty much in agreement on the AFC East. We don't need to revisit the order of that. But we were both all over the place on the NFC East. So right now, top to bottom, your bold 1 through 4 prediction NFC East.
Eagles, Cowboys, football team, Giants.
Okay. And thinking about it, I'm actually going to pick the football team to win the division. I got the Eagles finishing second. I got the Giants finishing third. And because of the coaching, I'm picking the Dallas Cowboys to finish last. That's my call. And Mo says that he guarantee he'll stick his chest out and say, I told you so. He's picking the Eagles, the football team, the Giants, and Dallas. So me and Mo are actually pretty close. Just flipping Washington and Philly there, but he's agreeing with me on the last two. So, I mean, look, Dallas fans, as a Niners fan, I have absolutely no love lost for y'all whatsoever. But at the same time, this isn't me being a biased person. This is me looking at your roster, seeing that there's talent there that has been vastly underutilized for multiple seasons. And I think until you get your coaching fixed, it's going to continue to get underutilized. And that's why I'm picking you last. Yeah. It's not personal. I think y'all got the talent to win the division. I just don't think you got the coaching staff.
I'm telling you, man. While I can understand where y'all coming from. Here's the thing. The Giants have a major problem at quarterback, right? The position you cannot have a major problem at and win. So
I would argue your whole division possibly has a problem at quarterback.
For me, the Giants are last because of that.
Yeah.
When you look at Dallas and you look at the football team, Fitzpatrick's not going to make it the whole year. Heineke's going to come in, but Heineke and Fitzpatrick, some combination of that, I feel like it's still better than Daniel Jones. So that's why I got the football team at third. Now, when you come to the Cowboys, I think they have enough talent. They're going to be able to win enough games to be better than those two teams, even with the coaching issues, because they do have the weapons to go out there and throw 400 yards a game. So that's why I think that. And, of course, we're going to win this division.
So just to answer most question. So last week we did the 2 South divisions. This week's the East divisions, obviously. Next week we'll be doing the North, and then in 2 weeks from tonight we will be doing the 2 West divisions. So you will have to tune in 2 weeks to find out what I think about my my division and how it's gonna go. But spoiler alert, there will be the home alert that week for me. So
Biggie, y'all gonna finish last, bro. You finish last.
So just real quick, man, for those who maybe tuned in a little later in the show and did not hear the announcement, the Play Caller Sports Talk show has now become a part of the Sideline Sports Network. So big things are going to be happening with that. If you wanted to kind of just hear a little bit about what that's all about, you can go back and catch the beginning of the show. But huge thing, we're really excited about it. So hopefully you guys will start to see some of the benefits of that soon.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Stay tuned. We're moving in the right direction. We cannot do it without everybody that watches replays, everybody that watches live, everybody that interacts with us. Y'all don't know how much we appreciate y'all. We do this because we have our opinions. We're homers. Hey, it is what it is. But I think even being a homer, man, we do a pretty good job of trying to at least be evaluators of the team and not just, oh, my team's greater than everybody else with no reasons just because it's my team. And, you know, we're fans of teams just like y'all, right?
We got it. We got a bet. We got a bet, man. We got a bet.
What juice? What juice? What's the juice there? Let's go. What we juicing? We juicing to the Eagles first, the Giants last, or the combination? What we putting the case on? Let's go.
Oh, we got to stay live for a second. See where this is gonna go.
The case was really good. But yeah, man. Appreciate everybody, man. And y'all are, you know, an integral part of what we do.
Absolutely, man.
For some who may have come along the way or may not have been from the beginning or haven't been able to watch on a consistent basis, man, this is interactive for a reason. That's what we want. We can sit here, dictate to you for an hour, hour and a half, only our feelings, never talk about what you want to hear. You can watch any show for that. We want to be different. We want to be something that's fun. We want to be something that's interactive. We want to be something where you guys can be part of the show, you know. So there'll be opportunities coming up for some of you guys also to hop on, talk different stuff with us. So be in the comments, be paying attention, be around. So when those things happen, we can pull you in.
Yep.
But you know, we appreciate you. Big E, you name it, baby. You name it. Giants, 4th. And don't forget about fantasy football, either one of y'all.
So that's going to wrap up our show tonight. Make sure that you come back next week. We will be doing the NFC and AFC North divisions. So if you know a fan of a team in those 2 divisions, make sure you let them know about the show. Have them tune in. All they got to do is go to playcallersportstalk.com and it's going to automatically come up and ask them to subscribe, and they'll get notifications when we go live. So easy peasy.
AFC North, NFC North, those Giants fans, Lions fans, Vikings fans,
You know, Tyler's gonna be bad for the Packers. You know that.
And the Bears. The Bears. Check us out next week. AFC North, same thing. It's coming.
Unbox. Peace.
Cool.
And together we are
the Play Callers.